Good to see everyone again. Given that we signed Chris yesterday, I wanted to make myself available for any questions. We talked a bit Saturday about this roster spot and the direction we might go. Chris was a natural fit. His roots with the organization are deep and meaningful. He obviously played a tremendous role in the upward trajectory of the franchise. He wanted to return to the Clippers, and we wanted the same, as long as it made sense with our current roster, and it does. Ball handling and playmaking were areas we wanted to address this offseason. When we were at our best, we were taking care of the ball. And Chris takes care of the ball and runs an offense about as well as anyone who's ever done it. He'll slot into our roster as a reserve point guard. There'll be nights Chris plays a lot. There'll be nights he does not. Chris is excited to be here, to be part of the group, to help lead the group, and to play when called on. At this point, you're probably tired from hearing from me, so I will turn it over to you guys if you have any questions.
Lawrence, just how easy was it for if a guy like Chris wants to come back, how easy is it to say, given the history you guys have together, to welcome him back with open arms?
Well, look, we love Chris, and even when Chris left, we always, there were different times where we tried to get Chris back in the organization. But every roster spot and how fragile team chemistry, and just in terms of when you have too many guys, too many talented guys, we don't take that lightly. So we had a number of conversations with Chris, with Stephen Human, his agent, with T. Lou, just to make sure that, what the role was. Chris started 82 games last year and was a very, very productive player. So we don't take that lightly when you're taking on a different role. And, so there were a lot of conversations. You put everything on the table and get everyone comfortable with it. But the fact that, Chris wanted to come back, wanted to be at home, wanted to be with the Clippers. We obviously know what his skill set is, but also wanted to make sure the role made perfect sense from both people's perspective. And so I thought it was a very, very thorough process in terms of how we went about it, just to make sure that everyone knows exactly what we're signing up for. And we feel really, really good about it. And we're super, super excited to have Chris back with the Clippers.
Lawrence, with Chris now on board, you guys have 5 really good guards. How do you see Ty Lue trying to make that work, and how do you think you can incorporate him, and how does he feel about that?
Yeah, well, those are all the things you discuss. I mean, to your point is, from a ball handling standpoint, whether it's as a primary or secondary initiator, with James, with Brad, with Bogey, with Chris Dunn, let alone Kawhi, it's, okay, are we having too many mouths to feed? Is it too many guys to take care of? And that's why I think we were very, very specific about the role. We touched on it a couple of days ago that, we'll probably have a 9-man rotation, and yet we have 11 quality, proven players. So over the course of a year, look, I'd love for all of our guys to be healthy, all 82, probably not realistic. We also leaned in hard on James. James played 79 games, 5th most minutes in the league. I hope he can do it again, but we wanted to reinforce that, just like we didn't want to over-rely on Zoo, who played 80 games. And, again, hope he can do that again, but we wanted to reinforce those positions. And I think with the addition of Chris, we know that ball handling was a little bit of an issue for us last year. And we wanted to get, Chris was the best guy for the job, as long as everyone understood exactly what the role was and we can all embrace it. And so we've been very, very honest and direct. And we feel great that Chris is back.
Lawrence, when Chris left 8 years ago, it seemed like he left on pretty solid terms and has had a pretty good relationship with Steve. How much did the relationship with Steve play a factor in potentially Chris returning and this being a reality for you guys?
Well, look, Steve has always had Chris in the highest regard. And when Chris exited, we worked together. When he decided to go to Houston, Chris helped us in the sense of turning it into a sign and trade, and it really helped us transition. I mean, obviously, Chris had great history, great 6 years with us, being an all-star each year, all-NBA, I think 5 of those 6 years, making the playoffs each of those years. And yet the ability to get the return we got from Houston helped us get to the transition to where we're at now. So, yeah, Steve, like I said, I think they have great mutual respect for each other. I think one of the things that Chris talked about in terms of coming here, obviously the ability when, to be at home and to be able to be with his wife and kids, but also the fact that how committed this organization, since Steve has owned the organization, how committed we are to winning. And every year maxing out the season to give us the best chance possible to put us in a position to win a championship.
Hey, Lawrence, first of all, congrats on signing Chris.
Thank you.
And you've mentioned the point guard position before about how difficult it is to find players that are his archetype, small guards who can take care of the ball and be effective, especially offensively. I'm wondering, as someone who's been evaluating this league and evaluating this team for as long as you have, why do you think that is? Why do you think it's so hard to find point guards, if you will, like guys who are efficient, taking care of the ball and contributing to the offense in their position?
Yeah, it's a great question, and obviously, we've seen the evolution of the position, where now, the guys that are now known as point guards are more scoring guards who are also super, super talented at mapping the floor and being able to make the game easier for others. Chris is from the old school archetype, and I think the thing that's amazing is he enters his 21st year to be his size, and yet I think a big part of it is Chris is one of the fiercest competitors I've ever been around. I have a unique perspective in that I was on the bench and coached Chris, and then also, moved to the front office while Chris was still a Clipper. So to be able to see it from multiple angles, and I think the strength that he has, the ability to guard up despite his size, how physical he is, his IQ is off the charts, and Chris sees the game like few others have ever seen it. So I think when you combine his competitiveness with his IQ, with the fact the guy is a total basketball savant and junkie. So again, you have to be able to, if you're not 6'7" and you don't have unbelievable positional size, how's a guy become a 12-time All-Star? And when you go back to when Chris first came in the league, there was a great deal of speed and athleticism to his game, and then how his game has evolved. And then you look at, probably when he was 35, how he changed his diet and thus changed his body. And you look at, through Chris, he kind of was snake bit with certain injuries, and for him to play 82 games and start all 82 games last year, ending the season at 40 years old, it's just a testament to one of the great point guards who's ever done it.
Lawrence, Chris and Brad are two iconic wearers of the number 3. So a more aesthetic question, I suppose. Has there been any bartering or discussion over numerology for this team?
Well, I don't even know if Chris knows this. So this potentially, as boring as these things may be for you guys, I may actually be giving you something today. This actually could be breaking news. Brad is such a great guy and an awesome teammate. And obviously, Lauren, to your point, he's worn number 3 his entire NBA career, 3 All-Star appearances. I think he scored over 17,000 points in the jersey number 3. But he also knows what that jersey means to Chris. And there's a reason why he's CP3. And just the significance of Chris coming back to the Clippers, that Brad's volunteered giving Chris his number. So Chris will be wearing number 3. Brad is still determining what number he's going to wear. But it just once Brad heard that it was a possibility that Chris was coming, he said, look, I want to give him my number. And I don't even think Chris knows this yet. So it's awesome that Brad made such a great gesture like that. And so Chris will be number 3.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing. Something you've said now a couple pressers in a row, you've talked about wanting the Clippers to really become a destination organization. I think those are the words that you use. Reflecting back now over this whole tenure that, of course, started back in your last time with Chris and now having him back, what were the key inflection points? When did you realize that you guys really have become that destination organization that you wanted to be?
Yeah, well, I think you have to give a lot of credit to Blake, Chris, DJ, and that group. And then, for us, I think it all starts with Steve and just his commitment to the franchise. I mean, I'm here at Intuit. It's like that's the ultimate manifestation of like Steve's commitment, not just to our players and staff and their families, but to our fans. and to have an arena and a building like this to come to work every day. And then you combine that to have, an elite head coach like T. Lue, the staff we have surrounding him, the marketplace where we're at in Los Angeles, and what keeps on coming up, whether it was Chris, Brad, Brooke, when we traded for John, was the organization's commitment to winning. That each year we're going to put the best possible team we can while staying disciplined to our plan to give ourselves and give our team and give our fans the best possible experience of a team that's trying to compete at the highest level. And so I think, Chris this guy could be, I don't know if Tiddlywinks is still a game. I may be showing my age, but he could be playing any sort of game and he's going to compete to win. And that was at the forefront. His first question is, what are we all about? And, it's all about competing for championships and never putting a ceiling on the group. So I think Steve, combined with the infrastructure, combined with the people, and with the kind of the organizational ethos of competing at the highest level, is why we've become a destination.
Lawrence, just a roster question here. So, Chris, that makes 14, I believe. And we just watched Jordan Miller have a great summer league. You guys waived him right before. What are the conversations like with Jordan right now? And just related to that, like Amir played a bunch of games for you guys last year. He's still out there. He's still unsigned. Can you shed light on what his situation is as an unrestricted free agent?
Sure. Yeah. So we've been in constant contact with both their representatives. To your point, we do have one roster spot, but we are very, very tight to the first apron, which we can't exceed. So we're in constant contact with them. We have great respect. Amir played a huge role, averaged 24 minutes a game, a great kind of success story within from a player development standpoint, from undrafted to someone who's a valuable contributor. Jordan, to your point, has 2 years in a row been a high level performer, both, in the summer league and in the G League. So we'll continue to stay in contact with those guys. And if there's an opportunity here, we'd love to be able to create it. If there isn't, then we wish those guys nothing but the best. So nothing's been determined. So we'll continue those lines of communication.
El, sorry if I missed this earlier, but you had talked a couple days ago about James really kind of playing a pivotal role.
Did Ohm freeze just on my screen or no?
He's frozen.
Yeah, he's
Wow, Ohm.
El?
I bet you're back.
Okay. You had talked a couple days ago about how
You went frozen. Man, Cooper, this shit is actually pretty good now. We can freeze these tough questions.
El, can you hear me?
Now I got you.
Okay. You talked a couple days ago about how James Harden played a pivotal role in recruiting Bradley Beal. I was wondering if
You went frozen again.
El, can you see me?
I got you.
All right. I was just wondering if James and Chris talked about a possible reunion before getting Chris.
They did. And, James has been a huge part of this offseason, as you mentioned. And when talking to James, talking to Kawhi, and we talked about the role of what it be is, both guys said CP would be the best guy for this role. And I think, James is all about winning. And, and obviously Chris and him played together in Houston. They got within a game of going to the NBA Finals. That I think it was 2018, maybe. And, James, like Chris, and what James talked about with Chris was his ability to see the floor like few others, the leadership skills he brings, the competitiveness, and his everyday work ethic and approach. He thought that Chris would be a great fit for the team.
Lawrence, once Chris made those comments, I believe, at a film festival, that this likely might be his final year. Obviously, a lot to be determined there, but strictly from like a nostalgia aspect or what he meant to this organization, kind of kickstarting it last decade, was it important from that aspect to, if this is his final year, to help kind of send him off on the right way with the franchise, that he helped kind of get off the ground?
Well, I think there's the nostalgic aspect, but I think the number one question that we always say is, how can he help impact winning? And I think when that was the number one priority, is that the ability to take care of the ball, to be able to run T. Lou's offense, to bring all the things that Chris brings, and the fact that he's still a productive player. And yeah, look, there's the heartstrings part of it, of someone who was such a significant part of the Clippers' rise, to be able to bring it back. Whether this is his last year or not, that's obviously Chris's story in terms of what he feels and what he wants. But I think number one is his ability to help impact winning. And then the secondary was someone who's been so important to the franchise, to be able to bring him back in the fold. And it's pretty awesome because, you have guys like DJ, Blake, JJ, Jamal, all the, it just, and, I'm sure like Matt Barnes, but the guys that were that part of this rise, and be able to see Chris back. I think I've heard from a bunch of people and how excited and happy they are that Chris is coming back home.
What about me, Lawrence? I covered those guys. Come on, man.
Well, we got cut off again. This thing freezes all the time, BT. I was just about to say you, and I went, and that's all I got.
No, I said I covered that team, Lob City. Come on, man. Don't forget about me.
Did you create the term Lob City?
If I did, I'd be rich, and I wouldn't be here right now.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll give you credit for it. You were thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's like you had the Showtime Lakers, the Lob City Clippers.
I got it all, man. I'm still broke, though.
Yeah. Rich in wine.
True.
Hey, Lawrence, I just want to, you've addressed this already over the weekend, as far as, age being a number and everything like that. Like, you do have all these guys on this team that have played a significant amount of minutes, amount of years. Like, I mean, what experience do you have to draw off of that encourages you with these guys and their age and their ability to continue to play at a reasonably high level, rather than be scared or concerned about guys not being able to do it at a certain age anymore?
Yeah, I think number one, we wanted to improve the team and get the team as good as we possibly can while staying disciplined to our plan. And look, our two oldest players in Chris and Brooke, they combined this past year and played and started in 162 games. Chris at 82, Brooke at 80. So it's not like these guys were productive 3 years ago or 5 years ago. They were productive players last year. And then we added John, who is in his prime. He'll be 28, at the start of next season, to go along with Zoo, DJ, Chris. Brad's 32, the same age as Bogey. So not that we ignore it, but the goal is to get this team as good as we possibly can get it, regardless of age. And everyone's entitled in terms of, the judgments they want to make on the group. We're super excited about the group. And I think part of the things that with age, typically people worry about increased chance for injury. That's why we lean into the depth. That, the nature of any NBA team, let alone an older one, that the odds are you may have more injuries than others. Now, some of our older guys have been very, very durable. So knock on wood, hopefully that maintains. But if not, we do have great faith in the roster and having depth across the board. But like Brooke was a starter for 80 games. CP was a starter for 82 games. The fact that not only have they been impactful to winning, but starting players that are willing to play different roles on this group and wanted to be here and had multiple options to go elsewhere, and chose the Clippers. We're extremely, extremely grateful for that, along with the other guys we have. So when we look at it, the team has gotten better. Obviously, that's on paper. We'll see what it looks like on the court. But we do think that we have a deep, deep roster of committed veteran players who do have one goal in mind. And winning is first and foremost. And I think that is also the benefit of having veteran players that, by and large, most of these guys have made a lot of money in the course of their career, that it is about the team first, self second. And we're going to lean into that.
I guess one more follow-up, if you will.
Of course.
And I appreciate you doing this. So you outlined all the things you wanted to do going into the offseason. What was it, 2.5 months ago? Now that you have this team, like, are there any like what would you say between now and say the start of the season that you do want to see that you haven't quite seen yet as far as potential areas of improvement for this group?
Yeah. I think, going back to the, kind of the question is when after the season, we kind of outlined our greatest needs. And, we talked about in the front court, can we add size, athleticism, and shooting? I think we've been very fortunate that we've been able to do it. In the backcourt, we talked about playmaking, ball handling, and shooting. And I think, we've been able to do that. And with that being said, every day we're always thinking, how can we get the roster better? I think we feel really, really good and excited about where we're at, but you never stop. And so is there anything immediately like that I could say, oh, I think there's a good chance of, this happening? Not right now, but you also, like, we never thought Brad Beal would get bought out. We never thought we'd be able to get Brook Lopez. The opportunity, to get John Collins, CP's willingness to embrace a different role. So you may have all these plans and our group, and I have a terrific, terrific team that every day I collaborate with. You just want to put yourself in a position to be nimble and opportunistic when those opportunities arise. So you're never quite finished. You're always looking for ways to improve the roster. And yet at the same time, we feel extremely excited about the roster we have.
Lawrence, just a quick timeline clarification question.
Last one, please, Tamara. Okay, last one.
Okay.
We have a built-in Zoom now. Chris Wallace.
Was just curious, when did obviously you guys had Norm Powell on the roster heading into free agency? Just when did kind of the need for Beal or the necessity for a guy like him, when did that kind of kick in? Was it as soon as Norm was traded, you guys saw that hole and needed to fill it in? Like, how did that kind of timeline work with when you guys started pursuing Beal?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tie the exact date just because these things flow so closely together. But there were obviously murmurs that Brad could potentially get bought out. There were things, out just, online that there were conversations. And I think with Norm, we were talking to his representative every day, just kind of updating him in the event. There were kind of two scenarios where we'd even consider trading Norm. And they weren't tied directly to Brad, but it was more the concept of with Norm, okay, if there was ability to turn Norm into two high-level players, what that could look like. If there was an opportunity in free agency where there was certain players that were on carry forward contracts that were younger. And so you're constantly updating kind of Norm's representation. Yet at the same time, when the Brad thing came through, it was after we had already made the Collins trade. And then now you have a clear opening. You have a starting two-guard spot that's open. And we were competing against a bunch of teams going for Brad's services. So I think, there's always an element of risk. But we felt really, really good that with just the Norm for John trade on its own, how it addressed the definite front court need, kind of the athleticism and size that he provides. We didn't, it's something we felt could definitely benefit our roster. And then you couple with, okay, we are taking some risk, but we do have a starting two-guard spot open. We do have the remaining part of our MLE available. And let's do everything we can to make a very, very appealing situation for Brad to come to. And luckily it all came together. And again, I never ever want to diminish the impact that Norm had on our team. He was awesome. And yet at the same time, we feel great that we're able to be able to essentially replace Norm with Brad Beal and John Collins, let alone Brook Lopez with the remaining part of the MLE. Chris, you that's it. So we got some unique features on this Zoom. We can freeze you like we did Ohm, and we can end you. So pretty good stuff here. Well, you guys will be very, very lucky. You will not have to hear from me for a long time. So I won't see you guys for a little bit, but I hope everyone has a great rest of the summer.